no not hearing that, is there? when that Pantera riff, when that kicks in, you know, towardanarchy.com, that's the place to go. Look for May 24th because that is where I am in the world today. If you're not there with me, just go through the archive. It's easy to get to. Look for the 2020 archive. Click on May. You should be right there at the top, May 24th, Johnny Hurley. He is my guest. He'll join me here in just a second. He's waiting right there on the line. I'm excited as always. I mean, I'm always excited to have these conversations in general, but it's really a treat when it's somebody that I know, somebody that I respect, somebody that's a friend. So we get that opportunity to catch up and do the sort of friend thing and relationship, personal thing. You get to catch up on. You get to tune in to that, but then we also have these relatively important things to talk about too. So you get to tune into that as well. So we'll start that conversation off here in just a second because I wanted to point out that there's no agenda here. Johnny doesn't have an agenda. He has his things. He does his things. But he's a truther. He's another one like myself. He's not afraid of that word. He knows that it means truth seeker. It has a sort of negative connotative meaning. A lot of people use it to describe what they would call conspiracy theorists. Well, I'm not going to go into the conversation of what and what isn't, what constitutes a conspiracy, because if you can't figure it out, I don't know, go look up the word in the dictionary. It's a pretty simple word to understand. They're not the same thing, a conspiracy theorist and a truth seeker or not. They can be the same person, but those two ideas are not the same thing. Maybe we can talk about some of that because we have some activism that we share in common as well. That's how we met. And so it's really a privilege to introduce you to my friend, Johnny Hurley. And man, Johnny, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it as always.
Of course. Am I on?
Yeah, brother, you are here, and it's really a pleasure to have you here. I tell you what, I think it's a huge oversight that you have not been a guest on my show prior to this. No, it really is. I don't know if you know this or not, but all those days that we spent back in doing the activism there in Colorado with Rear Change. You were a well-respected fellow, and you were well respected by me and others within the group, and that's it's kind of a hard thing to achieve in groups like that. I think, especially if you're a calm, reasonable mannered gentleman like yourself is, when there are so many crazy vocal individuals around like myself. So it's a long overdue thing, and I'm glad that you are here.
Yeah, man, it's great to be here. I'm honored to be on your show. I've been watching you build this thing for a while now, and seeing you have guests like John McAfee and some big public names, people that are kind of a big deal even outside of our particular circles. And so again, it is an honor to be here, man, and it's great to catch up with you too, man. We hadn't caught up in a long time. I don't know if you want to get into this on the show, but I did want to ask you, what was the ultimate, what happened with the comic book shop? You had bought a shop and you had taken it over, and there was some controversy about the ownership and other, the customers that were coming in there, and they were used to a certain way of running things, and you came in and kind of changed stuff up, and it sounded like a little rough, and I hadn't heard anything from you about it for a while, so I was just curious if you're still operating that.
No, it's interesting that you ask about that, because all of a sudden this week I find myself back in the comic book business. I was contacted by one of the people who is going to be my partner in what you're talking about here just a little bit ago, and he said, man, I come into this sort of 9,000 book collection, and I want to move it, and I need some help moving the collection, but also these guys are over here. They just opened up this new comic book store. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? What comic book store? You mean this thing that's 2 blocks away from me that I've never heard of? How the hell did that happen? And so he reached out to me, and so I suddenly find myself again, last night spending hours looking through boxes, about 100 books, Bronze and Silver Age, 20 cent, 25 cent, 35 cent.
Cool.
Stuff that stuff that I'm finding hard to keep my own hands off of. In fact, I did end up setting a small pile aside for myself after the big pile of initially looking at the collection that they had to show me. But no, what happened was, I stirred up a little bit of controversy in a very short period of time. It's funny. I run a comic book shop for about a year and a half, something like that, between two locations. And the idea was I was going to ultimately buy one or both of the locations at the end of it all. Unfortunately, it never worked out. The deal just never happened. But during the time, I did stir up a little bit of controversy because there's a problem with gaming. There is with all these industries. There's sexism. There's classism, there's race. There's all the same problems within gaming that people face within reality. What happens is you get the same sort of humorless jerks and morons in those places as you do in any place else. And then unfortunately you make a little joke, you try to have fun, you try to lighten the mood, and then somebody has to say something about it. And I got calls from Diamond. I got calls from Wizards of the Coast, the people who create Magic the Gathering and Dungeons and Dragons now. I had to have long conversations with these people, like, who are you to tell me what I can and can't say on social media as a distributor of yours? And so, that's what that was all about. Unfortunately, because of the fact that the deal never worked out, financially, the owner of the shop was never able to get his stuff together for me to be able to buy it. Oh, wonderful. Good old radio. You got to love it. I've been dealing with this since 1993, having one of these things going, except at this point, I don't have to tell you. I don't have to stop my broadcast and tell you what's going on in the weather, though I might want to find out. No, so ultimately it didn't work out, though. But I'm back in the game. I'm playing with it again. You're a bit of a geek, I take it, right? You always have been.
Quite a bit. I'm pretty nerdy about a lot of different things, yeah. I've always been kind of a contrarian. So a lot of times, if something comes out and it's really, really popular, I'll just stay away from it just because, everybody likes it, so I'm just gonna not watch it. And I did that with Game of Thrones. Just stayed away, and people were telling me, like, dude, this is totally your kind of thing. You like fantasy and adventure, and I don't know. I just stayed away, and finally, a couple of people were like, all right, you absolutely have to watch this. My sister has a whole series on Blu-ray, and I finally started watching it this year. And I was in a unique position because I got to just crank through the whole thing front to back.
Nice.
and I was just absolutely blown away. It's one of the most incredible universes, and just some of the best story writing and character development and character arc. The way that the characters they're so well established at the beginning, and then they go from the beginning. They make a lot of the characters make these enormous arcs. They're like completely changed by the end of the whole series, and it was just really fantastic stuff. So, to everyone whoever told me to watch it, you were right. If you're listening, you were right, and yes, I very much enjoyed that. But
what do you think? You're a Marvel guy, right? You're into the comics.
Absolutely. Yeah. Infinity War is one of the greatest action adventure movies of our time, I have to say. Yeah, it is so
really liked it, huh?
Amazing.
And that's having then read the original Infinity War arc, then in comics, or no?
I have not read it. I was familiar with Thanos and the Gauntlet, Infinity Gauntlet, and all that stuff, but no, I did not actually read those. I don't have a huge collection myself, but I know there's, of course, things are always going to change when they go from the page to the screen. And so it was actually kind of fortunate for me that I wasn't as intimately, was not as intimate with the details of the stories. I was really able to enjoy most of the MCU.
I feel sorry for people who can't, because I tell my listener all the time, I'm a fan, not a fanboy. I'll tell anybody that, and I'll explain them to them. It's really simple. I enjoy the work. I enjoy the characters. I enjoy the universes. But I don't care about the details of every little thing. I don't have to know it all, and I don't have to be judgmental of it all. And I think I feel sorry for some of these people that invest so much. It's like the sports thing, a lot of the distraction stuff, right? They invest all of this time in it, only to be disappointed with it. All this time and energy, only to be disappointed in and upset with it because they invested way too much in it. They're not just sitting back and enjoying it for the entertainment value, taking it at face value for what it is, and not trying to compare Gone with the Wind to Infinity War or something, whatever it is, whatever silly comparison. Particularly, I hate to poke at older people, but I think the older generation kind of showed their backside on this when Scorsese and the like were sort of bashing on the MCU here recently. Yeah.
Called it a theme park.
Yeah. Well, guess what? People like to go for rides, bro. I got news for you.
Well, but the essence of what makes a good story is the character. When it really comes down to it, almost doesn't matter what happens to the character. It's how good the character is. How can you relate to it? Does it speak to you? Does it move you emotionally? And so long as Iron Man and Captain America and Doctor Strange, and as long as those characters, that we identify with them, that they seem to match the characters that we know from the books, what they do with those characters matters a little bit less. And I think that's where they really hit the nail on the head. They had the right people, and they had the right kind of direction, and just that background sort of monitoring of the whole thing, so that they all came together, in this fantastic conclusion.
They stumbled a little bit. They stumbled a little bit at the beginning. The first couple of movies, Hulk, a few things right in there. They didn't get it quite tied in.
Disposable.
Yeah. Well, I think they. I wish I knew. This is one of the. If I was a fanboy, I probably would know. I'd probably be able to tell you. And the only reason that I said I wish I knew is because we're talking about it right now. I wish I could say one way or the other why you would choose to do a certain thing a certain way. But who knows? I mean, these guys are. One of the things that it's laughable about the fanboys is that a lot of times these guys that make these movies are the same huge fanboys that these kind of guys are. you know?
Yeah.
So it's not fair to say.
But then again, so now I hate to be that guy, but I do sometimes get fanboy on certain things. But I feel like it's I have valid arguments against these two universes that I'm going to bring up.
All right.
Because what they did with the characters was so far outside of what I feel would have been the kinds of decisions they would have made in the story. For example, The Hobbit was so bad. It was so bad. Peter Jackson nailed the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Nailed it. Great stuff. Lots of deviations from the book, but still was like right on, as good as anybody could have possibly done it. The Hobbit, to me, was a complete failure. It was all theme park and no depth, all just skipping across the surface of the water, no diving deep. And I really think they missed the mark on that one.
I don't know how the hell you pull that off when you have 9 hours to do it in. How do you screw up
love stories and characters that aren't even in the book, and it's just shaking my head through the whole thing. So
I'm one of those guys. Hobbit was one of my early things, and I was always a fan of the Ralph Bakshi presentations of those cartoons, those stories from the 70s, I guess. And
yes.
really amazing stuff. Yeah, and so I was happy to see that everything that was in the Hobbit, the animated Hobbit movie, which was my favorite, even having read the books and everything, because it was short, it didn't take forever. It was, it was a movie length presentation of the Hobbit, but they fit all that stuff in there, and that was what I was happy to see about in the Peter Jackson presentation, was the fact that they got all of those things. They hit on those major points. They got the songs. The chip the glasses, crack the plates. They got the adventure through the mountains and getting captured by the goblins, and the revealing of the Goblin Slayer, and then that's how how he ends up meeting Gollum and getting lost in the caverns, in the caves and the caverns.
That was good. I did like that. Yeah. That very much felt like reading the book to me.
Yeah. I mean, that was what was great about, and I thought the same way about the first three movies too. Is that there was, it was so enough of what made those stories that it definitely drove. Did he win any awards for The Hobbit? I know he did for Lord of the Rings.
Oh, I don't know, but yeah, they waited until Return of the King came out, and then they just laid, like, I was thinking it was like 11 Academy Awards or something that just kind of accounted for the whole series.
Yeah, right. It kind of made up for it. Yeah.
But what I hear is that they're going to make some kind of a series, some kind of Lord of the Rings series. But the producers and the writers, they had these Tolkien scholars helping them kind of guide the story and stick within the Lord of the Rings world, within Middle Earth, and the writers started deciding they wanted to take the story or the characters in a certain direction. The scholars said, no, that's not a good idea, and they fired the scholars. So they no longer have these like really well and deeply read people on their team, and that's not.
It's a shame, is what it is. Hey, we got to go into a break. Yeah. I'm talking to Johnny Hurley. Go to towardanarchy.com. Look for May 24th. We'll be right back on Toward Anarchy. All right, towardanarchy.com if you want to follow along. Hopefully we can get everybody listening. The good thing is, if you haven't been able to get connected, I got a couple of people talking about how they can't figure out how to listen. That happens all the time. I can't imagine why it wouldn't. There's a whole thing now. I don't know. We'll get it figured out. We'll get you listening. The good thing is we haven't jumped into the big conversation yet. We've just been geeking out, catching up. My guest is Johnny Hurley. If you go to towardanarchy.com, if you're with me live, of course, you'll know it's May 24th. If not, just get into the archive there and take you right where you want to go. And Johnny made it a point to, as we always do every week, I ask the guests if they want to share something, whether it's, something they're working on, a book they wrote, whatever it is. Johnny didn't have anything to push like that. He just looks for truth when he's out there. And so he thought it would be a great idea if I shared Derek Brose's website and then some Corbett Report stuff. So I shared the YouTube page for the Corbett Report there. And that's, that's top quality truther stuff, right? I mean, truth seeker stuff. James is just amazing, isn't he?
Yes. Really great guys. I've hung out with Brose several times. Never met James Corbett, but did get the chance to meet. I want to throw out some other names there too. Ben Swan, really fantastic journalism. But yeah, Derek Brose. I haven't talked to the guy in a while, but hopefully he comes across this or someone says, "Hey, somebody's talking about you."
He jumped off of the social media there for a while.
He did. He backed off of Facebook, and the other alternative social media platforms haven't quite taken off enough yet, which I hate to appeal to collectivist ideals, but I think he was having a hard time drawing people to his other spots. But it's really great to have him back on there. And again, he is the person that you see on the screen is the person that he is in real life. He's just one of the most truest, most honest, open people I've ever met. And he's just great energy, great to be around. And obviously his research and his journalism is indispensable, especially in a time like this. Also, James Corbett, he's been doing a lot of videos about the COOF and Bill Gates and all this shit that's going on. And he's so seemingly, to me, objective. He really attempts to just let the facts guide what he believes. And
I think so.
And he's always posted great sources for his material. And as well, Ben Swan, man, the guy he's just a natural truth-seeking journalist. And people, he's getting censored and shit on left and right, just like everyone has been for years. But he's really doing a great job of keeping up on what's going on with the Rona and with media censorship. I mean, he was there talking about how this PolitiFact, they flagged one of his videos and said that it was partially untrue. So he hunted down the person who actually flagged the video.
I saw
found out that the guy's a freelance journalist. He doesn't even work for PolitiFact, and they say PolitiFact says in their policy about fact-checking that they don't actually watch the videos. They didn't even look at the content. That's the kind of
that's
censorship that we're under
fact-checking
right
for
now.
you. I check facts by not watching anything at all. Hey, we got to go to the top of the hour. We'll be right back on Toward Anarchy.
We are living in an artificially induced state of consciousness that resembles sleep. The poor and the underclass are growing. Racial justice and human rights are non-existent. We have been lulled into a trance. They have made us indifferent to ourselves, to others. We are focused only on our own gain. That is their primary method of survival. Keep us asleep, keep us
to be alive. I mean, I think probably everybody believes that about their time. And you should. The best time to be alive should be the time that you're alive. It seems to work for me. That's the way I try to handle stuff. It gets along really well. I try to live a life that makes other people angry. TowardAnarchy.com. Toward Anarchy is the show. My guest is Johnny Hurley. He's a friend of mine from, I don't know, it's been upwards of a decade now. We've been hanging out and doing things with Weird Change, Colorado, and then and I moved away and don't participate so much in that anymore. So we're having a little chance to catch up. And one of the things that we started talking about right when I approached Johnny about being on the show, about being a guest, is of course we started talking about what can we say, what can we talk about, not in terms of what should we talk about for the listener to listen to, but in terms of what is safe to say anymore. So we started having sort of this conversation, start dipping towards technology and security. And then all of a sudden this week, everybody's talking about this. You've probably seen this, Johnny. Contact tracing apps. Have you heard about these?
Oh yeah. And the new updates for the smartphones, they're just going to be built in there. And it's you either click accept, you either click I agree, or your phone doesn't get updated and you basically can't use it. And we've been talking about the loss of privacy and the tracking everyone's movements, figuring out our behaviors and things like that. And it didn't quite hit home hard enough until this. This is the first time that I've really felt like, man, I kind of want to leave my phone at home these days. Like maybe I don't need to have it in my pocket when I'm at work all day. Maybe I can figure out, a different way to communicate with my employers and employees to get the job done during the day. It really kind of freaks me out.
Yeah, that's it's pretty scary. I mean, what I wanted to explain to everybody is we were talking about that they've been using these sort of applications and things for a while now, but I guess that's supposed to be the difference, right? Is that this new version of it is you're not supposed to be able to separate it from the operating system?
I believe so. I'm not 100% on that. And again, this just hit at the end of the week, and I literally just got back in town from camping in the mountains today.
See, my understanding, and that's what we're trying to figure out, I guess. That's part of the big conversation and why people are concerned about it. So it makes sense. And I guess it's because they use this phrase that everyone will get access to the framework for the tracking tools. And so I don't know if that means that we get, they'll shove the tracking app down our throat with the OS, but we'll all have the ability to follow it. It's not like the data will be hidden or something, which I don't know if that makes it any better.
I'm not a technology, I'm not computer savvy, but
well, it's a joint project.
The framework for that is already built into the technology of smartphones.
Yes.
And the fact that you can turn on your map and it gives you turn-by-turn directions and knows when you're right before you're about to get off the freeway, like it's already there. So all I have to do is put a special
right, and that's what I was talking about. And it actually uses, before you joined the show, this is exactly what I was talking about, where you've been able to do this for a long time. I don't know if it's iPhone or if they even can do it now, but you used to be able to tap share data. The phones would actually touch. But now the idea is that it's a joint venture, I guess, between Apple and Google. And the idea is to use the Bluetooth to communicate with other phones in the area or to communicate information, to gather information that can be shared with public health authorities, things like that. Supposedly, I guess that's the big conversation.
I don't want to say one way or another because then I'll have people come at me. Oh, you lied to us about the contact tracing phone stuff.
Right. And I'm trying to be clear about the difference between what has happened before and the fact that you had to both have the app to be able to do this, and that if you're concerned about sort of like it's I guess I'm trying to find this line that we walk between realizing that, yes, this is a real thing, but let's concentrate on the actual real problem here. And I guess the real problem would be is if it was forced on you, as opposed to whether or not these, whether it's information. These phones already steal all your information. That was my point. All that information, it's already being stolen. So it's this particular information and how it's being shared, I guess, is the point.
Yeah, data is a very high commodity these days. I mean, these tech corporations, they pay a lot of money to get access to your information. And you notice almost any chain store that you go to, you buy a pencil and they're like, "Can we get your email address?" You go into Ace Hardware to just buy a couple of screws. They're like, "Can we get your phone number and your home address?" They just want to send you coupons. And we're so reluctant to do that every time because I know that they just want more data. They just want more marketing research, and they want me to be, another number.
There's no question about that because a lot of what's being generated in the world right now, especially right now, is not, it's all digital data. It's all digital information. And so you got to mine that information. And that's been the case for a very long time for sure. Going through what they're talking about, it's interesting because I think Apple people will probably be a little more screwed because they're going to get an OS update, it sounds like, and so they won't have a choice. But if you're on an Android system, it's going to be offered through the Play services, so you can actually control whether it updates it or not. It's not a part of the OS.
Okay.
Your phone will still operate, and that makes sense because Google, the Android OS has so many different versions and so many different phones. It's not like iOS. They have one phone, they have one OS. one company that's making this stuff. It's not like Android has to work for all of these different phones and all of these different devices, whereas the iOS doesn't. So, well, there you go. There's one of your solutions right there for some people who are looking for solutions. And this is just according to the data that I understand that's out there right now. These things could change.
But again, back to I wanted to make a point earlier, but still within the same context of loss of privacy and censorship. So the combination of loss of privacy with censorship is really it is starting to make me think a little bit more about what it is that I say, even whether it's on the phone, whether it's through email, text message, or even if my phone is just in my pocket. We know that they can just turn your microphone on at any time, and there will not be any. You're not going to get a push notification. Hey, the NSA just turned your microphone on. They're just going to do it. And we're in a time now where enough people have been convinced that it's dangerous to say this or that, and that if your words seem to pose any kind of a threat to the big nanny state that's doing such a great job of just wrapping us up in this warm blanket of authority, it's like the sheep are going to turn on each other. And so I feel like I've got to be careful. I mean, I'm reluctant to like and comment on certain things on Facebook because I know that they're taking that data and they're just continuing to build a profile of what they think I think and what they believe my behavior is going to be. I mean, I heard a story. Forgive me if this is not true, listeners, but I remember hearing after World War II, they went into Germany and they found these warehouses full of like dossiers, like boxes of evidence that they were just tracking normal everyday citizens, whether they were Jews or just German citizens or whatever. They had like boxes where it was like they'd have like an article of their clothing or a watch with their name inscribed on it and places that they like to eat, and they were doing all of this profiling way back then. Now they don't have to have a warehouse; they just have to have a big server that they can collect all the data into, and this is a much more effective way of tracking people and thusly trying to predict their behavior.
Well, and controlling their behavior, and that's the ultimate point. That's the ultimate goal. Is to be able to predict so you can control, and that that's where we are. This is one of the reasons why I tend to concentrate on, I talk to someone like yourself, or I talk to people who are doing things. I do my friend thing. I do my real world thing, as opposed to that because I can't stop that. It's too late. They already have control of the information. They've had control of it since at least 1995, when they took all of these boxes and installed them in every communication system throughout the United States, every public communication system throughout the United States, all of them, every radio station, every TV station, every cable station. So from at least that point on, they've totally been able to control the flow of information, and it's only grown worse from there. So they can control the information to you, and they can actually predict how you're going to react to it. And because they can predict how you're going to react to it, they can actually manipulate things in a certain direction. It's a really scary time that we live in, to really subtly sort of manipulate things in a direction that ensures their outcome, their chosen outcome.
Yeah. A phrase that I know you're very familiar with is incrementalism. Everyone knows that the frog in the boiling pot analogy. Well, boy, we are witnessing, of course, and I guess in any age, they're going to be doing that as best they can. And I believe this is in Sun Tzu's Art of War. I could be mistaken, but just the the idea that if you encroach on your enemy's territory slowly enough, they won't actually notice that you're in their territory until it's too late.
The Mexicans,
erosion of our rights, the erosion of our privacy, all of this stuff, it happens in such small, subtle steps that when somebody opposes it, the masses go, what's the big deal? It's just one more tiny little bit of blah, blah, blah that's going to keep us safe. What I'm curious about, and again, this is the point at which, I stop communicating with people over digital means. Where is the line? Where is the line going to be? When are people going to actually say, okay, this has gone far enough, and the only option we have left is to...
There isn't one. It's never coming. It's never coming, and I'll tell you why. You started to hit on it. It's because it's incremental, but there's something different about America because everybody always starts, World War II comparisons. We've even made the comparison ourselves a little bit here, just in passing. Everybody makes that comparison to sort of Germany. America's nothing like Germany. At best, America is 50 Germanys, 50 of them. We're spread out all across the country. And the fact is the people in California don't give a damn what happens to people in Colorado for the most part. And the same is true of most other places. So here's what happens. America is bigger than the individual countries that it's made up of. So it will never, you can't collapse America. You can't fight something. You understand this concept. America doesn't exist. There is no USA Incorporated. It's an imaginary thing, right? It's created on paper and it lives in people's minds. It doesn't exactly exist, right? So if it doesn't exist, how can you beat it? It's an idea. All you do is just shift the idea or shift people's perception of the idea. Your Overton window, you shift that perception of the idea, and that's why I see a sort of futility in the idea of revolution versus evolution. Certainly.
Okay. Very, very, very wise point. I appreciate that a lot. And that makes a great segue into We Are Change Colorado, because what did we do for a decade? We spent a lot of time trying to, quote unquote, wake people up. I mean, how many tens of thousands of DVDs did we burn and hand out on the street?
Couldn't even.
How many fucking signs did we paint and wave, and the bullhorns and the getting arrested at the Federal Reserve and DIA and pulling these stunts and stuff and doing all this stuff because we held out hope that if we could just get enough people to see what we have seen and understand what's going on, then yes, there won't have to be some forceful, some boiling point, some point where the fire catches and it's not just smoke. But now here we are again in this time of crisis. I hate to use these silly buzzwords and phrases, but it is very reminiscent of 9/11, of the financial crisis. This unmistakable sort of 10-year pattern where shit starts to get good and then bam, something happens and we have to reset and everyone has to run around scared and then we have to give more power to the government. I feel like I'm at a point, and it's interesting too because this weird shit that's going on has made the core We Are Change folks come back together. We have not met regularly in years, and all of a sudden now it's Turtle and Rob and Bruce and Matt and Gary. We're just sort of instantly gravitated back together. We're trying to figure out what exactly it is we want to do with the thing. We haven't really done much with it for years. And so the question is, do we want to spend time right now continuing to wake people up? From what you said before I started this whole tirade, it sounds like you are still holding out faith that we can wake people up. I mean,
well, in a different sense,
putting your thoughts out there.
Yeah, I think we can wake people up, but I don't think that you can wake them up toward action. I don't think there's any point in waking them up toward action of revolution. 1776. Even as much as my ID is Facebook.com Michael.storm.1776 or whatever the hell it is, something like that. So I get the idea of revolution, but I think we're beyond that. I think that we have to evolve ourselves individually past of our individual belief that we need authority, and that's one person at a time, and that's just turning their back on it. That's not taking more energy and trying to to stop it, to try and change it. It's the opposite. It's taking that time, that energy, and turning it to people so that people change themselves. I think that's the only.
Yeah. And again, that is some sage, ancient wisdom right there, and that's kind of what I want to do. Where in the past, we had this shotgun blast of let's just see what sticks,
and it worked. Oh my God, it worked. We handed it, like you said, thousands and thousands of CDs. We had CD burning parties where we burned 1,000 CDs in a night easily. We got to go into a break. We'll finish this conversation back up when we get back here with Johnny Hurley on Toward Anarchy. No, you know what? We got to go right back into this thing because it was really important what we were saying right before the break interrupted us there. It worked. Okay, that's not to say that there's not some benefit to it. It worked. It worked real well. And I always go back to Dan Thiessen's story because I think it's a perfect example. We burned thousands and thousands of CDs, DVDs, and we would hand them out everywhere we possibly could. Any public gathering, we would create a public gathering if we had to hand them out. And doing so, people would take a CD, and this was Dan's story, and this is why it's so great, and this is one of the things that would keep us doing this forever and ever. They'd take that CD, they'd throw it in the car or something like that, and, maybe it makes it into the house, whatever. It sits there for a little bit, and then one day they're picking up the house or looking through their purse, and there's that DVD. I'm not doing anything right now. I was just sort of wandering around aimlessly anyway, looking for something to watch on the TV, and let's throw this in. And boom, all of a sudden, their mind is open to an entirely different view of the world than they've ever had before. And so it was amazing. So it worked. And so I'm really glad to hear that you guys are looking to get together again and to do some stuff. That's really awesome.
Yeah. We finally let the website lapse. But Rob is really gung-ho to get the website set back up. Bruce, of course, as you know, ambitious as he always is, definitely wants to start doing gatherings and meetings and stuff and get an agenda, just have some sort of a plan, what to talk about and what to do each week. But right now, it's really just kind of a focus, the core group. We're still just trying to figure out what it is that we want to do and where we want to go with it. But I appreciate your words of encouragement because I do get kind of discouraged, and I've definitely faced some failures in my activism days, and it was kind of crushing. I kind of let some of that stuff draw me in, and kind of killed my confidence a little bit. I hate that it took this horrible situation in the world to bring us back together. But hey, it's better than not being together, and so. Yeah, keep an eye out for We Are Change Colorado, man. We're posting a lot on the Facebook page right now. We're getting lots of positive feedback, lots of haters as well, and I think that's a good sign. I mean, if you don't have somebody hating on you, you're not doing well enough.
Well, to use a war analogy, since we've been talking about it, if you're not catching any flack, you're not over the target.
That's right.
Beautiful.
That's right.
I'm so glad to hear that you guys are coming back together. I hope that I hope some other people come back to the fold. Maybe
I
remember.
I know where you're going with that. We can go there if you want, but
nah, we don't have the time or the patience.
Yeah. The door remains open.
Absolutely, that's what matters.
So yeah, we can, and man, there have been, like you said, man, there have been so many amazing people that have come and gone from my life because of We Are Change Colorado.
Yeah,
and that was an era of my life that I will never forget. And if we can get something like that going back up again, I will let you know, and maybe we can do some more cross promotion.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, as you guys start to get some things going, I'm definitely down to help out in any way I can, even if it's just a voice to let some people know what's going on. I'm always good for that.
Cool, man. Well, and I gotta shake your hand, sir, for putting this show together, and just listening to how you pace the show, and just the way you are a very good host, sir. And I think
thank you.
I think you this has been a long time coming. Now that I hear the way you do it, I think it's great, man.
Oh, I appreciate that. And coming from you, that really means a lot, I tell you, because I, like I said, I believe you to be a well-spoken and well-thought individual. And so, to have you say that I really appreciate that. And I think you're right. I think it is a long time coming. And I think that that comes down to me, a lot of that comes down to me and going through some of those same sort of things that you were just talking about, sort of seeing successes, huge successes, and then sort of massive, not failures, but not successes, and that it can break you a little bit sometimes. And I don't know. I guess probably all of us have gone through sort of a little, like 3, 4, maybe more. Some of the people, period of kind of, if they're lucky, hellish introspection that brought them out the other side of it.
Yeah. Oh, this and like you is to very roughly quote much wiser men than myself, but it's not candy canes and roses. It's not fucking sunshine lollipops, man. It is some dark, difficult shit to deal with, and it doesn't stop. It's like you either get with that uncomfortable feeling that you get from your friends and your family members and your coworkers, and you just have to stick to the path of truth. And I think, it's easy to get knocked off of that. We're so invested in our social interactions and in our identities. And
I think that's a perfect point to leave it on. We got to go, brother. Thank you so much. You take care. I'll talk to you soon.
Brother. We'll talk soon, man.
Love you.